Welcome to Let's Talk on Houston City Beat. I'm Lisbeth Newton, and joining me today is Wayne Basist. He is the founder of ESQ Mental Fitness, and what we're going to talk about today is burnout. If you suffer from burnout, you definitely want to watch and hear what Wayne has got to say. So thanks for joining us, Wayne.
Thank you, Lisbeth. It's my pleasure to be here with you.
So why don't we start by, can you tell us what the symptoms are of burnout?
The symptoms can be mental fatigue, physical exhaustion, low motivation. It can be distracted or the inability to be able to really focus. Those are definitely some of those. Then, just emotionally feeling more depressed or down, frustrated. Those would be, some of the symptoms and signs.
So would it be safe to say that burnout is like a temporary depression?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily view it that way because burnout, if you don't take action, can persist. And what's interesting is which comes first. Is it feeling depressed or is it feeling burned out? It's not always clear which one perhaps leads to the other, but it can be temporary. That's the good news.
Yeah. And what do you typically, when people come to you, professionals come to you because they're suffering from burnout, because they want to achieve better performance in their not just their work life, but in their personal life, what do you recommend? Do you see the signs of burnout and say, hey, we need to address the issues that you're having with burnout first, and then you work on optimizing their life? Or what is your strategy in that sense?
My approach is that to address the root causes underneath the burnout. One of the things that I've come to understand is that, all of the negative emotions that we experience are actually due to subconscious self-sabotaging thoughts that we have. So, for example, my clientele are primarily attorneys, but also high-performing business professionals. And, a lot of them tend to be perfectionists. And in this drive for perfectionism, it's exhausting. So that's just one specific example of how, insisting on things having to be perfect and not being able to recognize, hey, there's lots of times it doesn't have to be perfect, is really draining. And so what I do is there are numerous sabotaging thoughts that we have. So I help people come to understand, recognize them, and be able to catch them before they really take hold. Because that's, in my experience, what leads to the burnout. It's all the negativity, all the negative thoughts and emotions that just wear you down. So in short, what I would say is people think it's the job. It's not the job per se. It's how you're, reacting and responding to everything that you're experiencing during the course of your day and in the course of your work.
And when are these saboteurs? When are they? And I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly, but I'm okay with that because I am not a perfectionist. When do these come up? Are these things that come up during childhood, during adolescence? Can you develop these traits somewhere in between the time after you become an adult to the time that you're in your 40s, your 50s? How does that usually work?
Well, oftentimes it is actually something that was learned in childhood. And again, simple example, and for us as children, when we're like, 4, 5, 6 years of age, we have these characteristics that are our survival mechanisms. They help us be able to survive and protect us physically, mentally, emotionally. So, for example, if as a child, you've felt that in order for mom and dad to love you, and then and you thought that, well, I just have to do whatever they want. Like, it's critical. I'm always doing what they want to make them happy. If I'm not, then they're not going to love me, or they're not going to show me affection. Um, Again, it's not like you're conscious at 4 or 5 years of age, but you just instinctively figure out, um, or perfectionism. If your parents insisted on perfection, so now you've learned that things have to be perfect. So the strength of it is that, okay, you learn to have higher standards. Um, you learn to do good work. But as we get older, we, with these, thought processes, these connections in place, they tend to become stronger, and we tend to use, in a sense, overuse them, which, making mommy and daddy happy becomes, as an adult, making commitments to things that are not in your best interest, that you don't have time for, but you're afraid the person won't like you if you don't say yes. So, and and so they build over time. Um, but fundamentally, they're not in and of themselves bad. They have natural strengths. It's just, we've got to, kind of temper them back, and help recognize when, wait a minute, this doesn't have to be, perfect, or it's okay for me to say no to joining that committee. You're not going to like me any less.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times as children, we make up stories in our minds of how things are, even if our parents are not promoting that behavior, right?
Right. And it's also, we don't want to lay all the blame at the feet of, our parents, because we're influenced by our environment. We're influenced by, our experiences and interactions outside the home. It could be a teacher that, is really mean if you make a mistake. So now, pardon me, now they're, creating, if you will, this what I call a neural pathway. It's just this brain connection that now all of a sudden you feel like, boy, I better do this perfectly. The teacher's going to get mad at me, kind of thing. So it's not just, certainly not just our parents.
And how do you typically engage with the professionals that you work with? Is it you give them you have a consultation and then you decide on a plan of action, or is it you have several meetings before you decide on a plan of action? How does that usually work?
The way it works is that I first have, prospective clients take a saboteur assessment. And this was an assessment that was developed by Positive Intelligence, which is a science-based approach to mental fitness. And so with this assessment, it will reveal the strength of your different saboteurs. As part of this system, they identified these 10 factors, these 10 saboteurs. So the assessment will show which are your strongest, and then which is complementary, and then I'll have a complementary follow-up session for about 45 minutes where we do a deeper dive into those results. Because people, at a surface level, we may understand that we have these traits. But what we don't necessarily understand and appreciate is the depth of their impacts and how it touches all areas of life.
I
And
just
then
had a
from there, I have a 7-week training program, which is supported by an app, and you start, building your mental fitness by learning how to identify and catch these saboteurs, um, you know, I teach very specific, simple mindfulness exercises to quiet the mind and be able to shift you into a much more, open, positive mindset where you're able to really look at whatever the task is that you need to done or the challenge you're facing, and you're able to explore it with a much more open mind and see, you know, potential solutions, alternatives, uh, you know, be more creative in addressing it. And, ultimately that results in the outcome that you're seeking. Whereas if you're in that negative mindset and you're being driven by negative emotions, the action you take typically is not necessarily in your best interest.
It'll just continue following this pattern that is promoted by your saboteurs. I see these little characters as like garbage pail kids. I don't know. Would that be? I'm curious to know what my 10 arch enemies look like, and I would like to banish them from this
Well,
planet.
well,
Actually,
I'll tell you what, I'll send you the link to take the assessment, and I'm happy to review it with you afterwards. But it's interesting because people, yes, sometimes people are not surprised by the results, but oftentimes they are. And I'll tell you one, the tricky one that people often miss is the victim saboteur. It's very difficult for people to admit to themselves that, I'm being a victim, I'm behaving and I'm reacting like a victim. That's the one that tends to fly under the radar, and the assessment can often bring that to the surface.
and if other people are interested in taking this assessment, what do you recommend that they do in order to get in touch with you? Or would you recommend that they reach out to me? I'll be more than happy to help in this process in any way that I can.
They can certainly reach out to you. For me, they can reach me at my website that's displayed under my picture here.
ESQmentalfitness.com.
Correct, as
Yep.
well as by email, which is wbasist at esqmentalfitness.com, or they can find me on LinkedIn as well.
With the same name, Wayne Basist.
Same name.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Wayne. This has been a really interesting conversation. I look forward to taking my exam to see who are my arch enemies, and so that I can have the tools to slay them. And I would love others as well that are watching this to be able to do the same.
Well, I look forward to discovering your saboteurs, and yes, I this is really my burning passion at this point in my life, is to be able to help people, even if it's just 1% improvement, but to be able to improve the quality of their lives.
Well, 1% improvement is a huge improvement. So
Yeah,
for someone that's battling with a lot of negative patterns and negative behaviors.
right. And
Yeah.
we just look to stack them up 1% at a time. So, but it's been my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Lisbeth.
Well, thank you, Wayne. For Houston City Beat, Let's Talk. I'm Lisbeth Newton. Thanks for watching.